You have no idea how dangerous you are. Her voice slipped out like a secret, soft and low, barely reaching over the hum of the office AC. I froze, caught somewhere between wanting to laugh at the absurdity of her statement and wanting to believe every word. She wasn't smiling, but there was a flicker, an almost imperceptible light, in her eyes that made my chest tighten. Her name was Victoria. Mid-40s, sharp edges softened by years of laughter and quiet sorrow. She had that effortless way of commanding a room without raising her voice, and yet, right now, the office felt smaller than it should, and it was only the two of us. I, 24 and still fumbling my way through my first real job, felt like a kid trespassing in a world I didn't fully understand. I'd only met her a few times, formally of course. She was my boss's ex-wife, visiting to settle some lingering paperwork. That made the attraction illegal in a way that was thrilling, terrifying, and stupidly magnetic all at once. But there she was, leaning against the edge of the desk, a half-empty cup of coffee in her hand, the heat from it making her fingers tremble slightly. "You remind me of my first love," she murmured, and I blinked, unsure if I should laugh, deny it, or let myself feel it. My heart did something unpredictable, a little hop in my chest that I couldn't hide, no matter how hard I tried. The room smelled faintly of vanilla and old books, a combination that made me want to lean closer, to breathe it in like some forbidden perfume. I caught her glance lingering on me longer than necessary, and she quickly looked away, pretending to check her phone. Her lips pressed together, a micro-behavior that screamed restraint, or maybe fear. I couldn't tell which, and I didn't know if I wanted to. "First love, huh?" I said, my voice probably too casual. "I hope I'm at least the interesting kind." She laughed, a sound like water spilling over smooth stones, unpolished and raw. But then her eyes darkened, and for a heartbeat, she looked like someone carrying a weight I didn't dare try to lift. I wanted to ask, but I didn't. I wanted to reach for her hand, but I didn't. Every instinct screamed to stay put, to not ruin the fragile balance between curiosity and propriety. Yet, something in the way she shifted her weight, the subtle arch of her brow, the way her fingers twitched against the coffee cup, made me wonder if she wanted me to push. I started, unsure how to finish. Words felt useless, meaningless next to the quiet gravity between us. She tilted her head slightly, her gaze locking onto mine, and the office seemed to shrink again. "Be careful," she said, this time her voice more warning than tease. "You have a way of sneaking under skin that isn't always welcome." Her warning should have been a wall. Instead, it felt like a key, unlocking something in me that had been waiting for years. We lingered there, quiet and charged, the air humming with what neither of us dared say. I could feel the pull, the invisible tether tightening with every breath. Then the sound came, a sharp, insistent ring of the doorbell. Victoria stiffened, just slightly, but it was enough. My pulse spiked. Whoever it was, it didn't belong in this moment, didn't belong in the fragile bubble we'd carved out. Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to mine, and for the first time, her carefully maintained calm cracked just a little. "What now?" I whispered, barely able to move, barely able to stop imagining that if the world didn't intervene, I'd finally close the distance between us. The doorbell rang again, louder this time. And when she moved toward it, her hand brushing mine, just for a second, I knew everything was about to change. The door clicked shut behind her, and for a moment, the office felt impossibly quiet again, though not in the same way. The air between us had shifted, heavier now, loaded with the things we weren't saying. I watched her move back toward her chair, that subtle grace in every step, and I wondered what it was like to live a life full of regrets she didn't share. She set her coffee down, rubbed at her temple like she was chasing away some persistent headache, or maybe some memory she couldn't quite escape. "You know," she said finally, without looking at me, "I wasn't always like this. Calm, careful. I used to burn everything down if it wasn't perfect. Maybe that's why it didn't work out with him." Her voice softened, almost hesitant, and I realized she meant my boss, her ex. There was a shadow behind her words, the kind of guilt that lingers in the corners of old photographs. I wanted to ask more, but instead I said nothing. I didn't need to. Silence sometimes carries more than words ever could. You? She asked, and I caught her glance, curious but gentle, as though she was asking permission to see inside me. You've never had someone who stays? I swallowed hard. I wasn't sure what to say. I'd had people, yes, but nothing that left a mark the way this felt already starting to. Something about her, the way she could hold my attention without trying, made me feel exposed. Vulnerable. Not in a bad way. Not entirely. But definitely unprepared. I guess I've been too impatient, I admitted, surprising even myself. Or maybe too scared of what could go wrong. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing just a touch, and I could see her judging, measuring, weighing. And maybe she was scared too. Maybe that's why she stayed just out of reach, why her laughter carried a faint echo of sadness. You're different, she said softly, almost to herself. Most people, they don't look. They don't see. They just take. Her words hit somewhere deep, the kind of statement that makes you remember moments you thought you'd buried. I wanted to tell her that yes, I saw her. Really saw her. The lines around her eyes, the tension in her shoulders, the subtle trembling of her hands when she wasn't expecting anyone to notice. But I didn't. I just nodded, letting the silence swell between us. And then, something small yet electric. Her hand brushed mine as she reached for a pen. Just the lightest touch, nothing intentional, or maybe everything intentional, and the current that ran through me was undeniable. I kept my gaze locked on hers, long enough to feel the air hum, long enough to wonder if she felt it too. The office seemed to shrink again, and suddenly the age difference, the history, the risk, it didn't feel like boundaries. It felt like tension, like possibility. You remind me, she said finally, a little quieter than before, of the kind of person who doesn't wait for permission to feel something. I wanted to tell her that I wasn't afraid. That I wanted to feel this. But the words wouldn't come out. All I could do was let her hand linger near mine for a second longer, and hope she noticed the message my fingers sent without saying a single thing. The phone on her desk buzzed, and she jumped slightly, breaking the moment. Her eyes met mine, just for a beat, charged, knowing, and then she picked it up, hiding her expression behind the screen. But the memory of that touch, the possibility it carried, was already etched into me. I didn't hear the knock at first. It was soft, hesitant, almost like the sound didn't belong in the rhythm of the office. She jumped, just slightly, then froze, hand halfway to her phone. Is someone there? She called, voice steady but threaded with something tighter, sharper. The door cracked open, and for a moment, my stomach sank. Her ex, my boss, stood there, briefcase in hand, frowning as if he'd walked into a place he didn't belong. The tension twisted instantly, like a cord tightening around my ribs. Victoria, he said, and she stiffened, forcing her smile into a shield. I just wanted to drop off some files, nothing important. I wanted to shrink into the corner, disappear, but something in the way she held herself, sharp jaw, shoulders squared, yet trembling slightly, made me stay. I couldn't leave her alone in that moment. He lingered, looking between us, suspicion in his eyes. I could almost feel the unspoken accusation in the air, the kind that doesn't need words to sting. I tried to help. I can take the files, I said, stepping forward, heart hammering. Victoria shook her head. It's fine. I've got it. But the tremor in her hand betrayed her calm. He dropped the files on the desk, giving me a glance that said, I see you, and then left, the door clicking shut behind him. Silence fell again, heavier than before. Her eyes found mine, wide, intense, almost pleading. I wanted to close the distance, wanted to press my lips to hers, but guilt stopped me. The kind of guilt that whispers this is dangerous, this is wrong. I'm sorry, I said, voice low, raw. I shouldn't, sure, she interrupted, brushing her hand against mine again. That touch lingered, daring, a spark in the dim office light. My pulse spiked. Don't say it. Not yet. I wanted to argue, to pull away, to remind myself of the rules. But the memory of her fingers, her gaze, the way her lips had curved when she laughed earlier, too much, too vivid, kept me rooted. Why do you make this so impossible? I muttered more to myself than her. She smiled faintly, almost cruelly, almost teasing, and shook her head. I didn't make this. Life did. You just notice it. We moved closer, a fraction, enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off her. Enough that her scent, coffee, vanilla, something faintly like rain-soaked earth, filled my lungs. The office phone rang, shattering the moment, and her hand jerked back like she'd been burned. I swallowed hard. Maybe we should stop before someone walks in again. Her eyes darkened, a storm barely contained. Maybe, she whispered. And yet she didn't step back. Instead, she let her gaze linger, and I could see it, the pull, the risk, the hunger we were both pretending didn't exist. For a second, we both forgot everything else, the files, the rules, the years between us. We just stood there, drawn together by something neither of us dared name, and I realized that whatever hesitation we had left was slipping fast. Then her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, her brow knitting. I caught a glimpse of the message, something from him. Her ex. My heart sank, but also, it didn't matter. Not fully. Not yet. Because in that suspended second, I wanted her. I wanted this. And she wanted me too. The office felt smaller now, like the walls were leaning in, pressing us together. The hum of the AC became background noise to the rapid beat of my heart. She was standing too close, her arm brushing mine, her perfume wrapping around me in a way that made it impossible to think clearly. I can't, I started, but she cut me off with that look again. That one that saw everything I was trying to hide, all the guilt, all the longing, all the stupid hope I didn't deserve. I shouldn't feel this, she said, voice trembling slightly, though she tried to steady it. Her fingers twisted around the strap of her bag, knuckles white. I shouldn't want this. I swallowed hard, the words I wanted to say stuck in my throat. I wanted to tell her it was okay, that I wanted it too, that I had been wanting it since the moment I first saw her smile, but I didn't. Instead, I stepped closer, letting the space between us shrink by inches that felt like miles. I'm not thinking about right or wrong, I whispered. I'm thinking about you. Her eyes softened for a heartbeat, and then a flicker of panic flashed across them. She looked toward the door like she expected someone to burst in, like the world might collapse if we let ourselves feel too much. You have no idea what this could mean, she said, her voice low but tense. I've been careful, always careful, and you're reckless. I smiled, though it was shaky, and reached for her hand, but she pulled back, just enough to make my chest ache. Stop, she said, shaking her head, as if trying to convince herself as much as me. I can't do this. Not like this. Her hesitation made me see it all at once, the fear in her eyes, the way she held herself like she was protecting something fragile, and the silent, impossible pull between us. I don't care, I said, voice cracking despite myself. I don't care about perfect, about rules, about everything else. I care about this, right now. You. Her lips parted slightly, and for a second I could have kissed her. I wanted to. The pull was irresistible, a gravitational force I couldn't fight. But then her phone buzzed again, and she jumped slightly, as if that sound was the tether keeping her anchored to reality. She looked at the screen, then back at me, eyes glistening. I shouldn't, she whispered. And yet, she didn't move away. I stepped closer, slowly, cautiously, every nerve in me alive, every thought consumed by her. She bit her lip, hesitation and desire warring in her expression. I don't know if I can wait, I said, almost too loud, almost too desperate. Her gaze locked on mine, a storm of longing, fear, and need in her eyes. The office seemed to hold its breath with us, the moment stretching, fragile and dangerous. And then, a knock at the door. We both flinched, the spell breaking, but neither of us moved away. Our shoulders brushed, our hands almost touched. Everything between us hung by a thread. I looked at her, and she looked back. We both knew this was the point of no return. I wanted to reach out. She wanted me to. And yet, the moment waited, suspended, electric, impossible. The office was quiet now, but the tension between us hadn't faded. If anything, it had thickened, wrapping around us like smoke. I was still standing close, heart hammering, watching her fidget with the hem of her blouse, trying to anchor herself to some sense of control. And then my phone buzzed. A text from my roommate. Didn't know your boss's ex was hanging around the office. Just FYI, she's talking about you. I froze. My stomach lurched. Talking about me? What the hell had she said? My eyes flicked to Victoria. She was looking at me, uncertain, brows knitted together. What is it? She asked, voice careful. I shook my head, fingers trembling slightly as I typed a quick reply to my roommate. But the damage had already started. Her gaze followed me, sharp now, calculating. Maybe we should step outside, she said, voice lower than before, almost pleading. As soon as we reached the hallway, she leaned against the wall, running a hand through her hair. Her eyes were fierce, stormy, but vulnerable. I didn't mean for anyone to notice. I didn't want it to be like this. I swallowed hard. Notice what? That we... She shook her head. I've been careless. I thought I could handle you. But now... Her words caught in her throat, swallowed by the fear she'd been holding back. The twist hit me like ice. She wasn't just risking gossip. She was risking everything. Her ex. My job. Our reputations. The very fragile trust we'd been building. And suddenly, the desire that had been pulling me toward her felt like it could destroy us both. Victoria, I said, trying to steady my voice. I don't care what anyone thinks. Not really. I only care about this. Her hands trembled as she pressed them against her temples. You don't understand. People talk. People judge. I didn't want it to go this far. Not yet. I stepped closer, gently placing a hand near hers, careful not to touch her. The electricity between us was maddening. It's already gone this far, I said softly. We can't ignore it now. Not how I feel. Her lips parted, a whisper of sound escaping. I shouldn't. You shouldn't. It's too messy. Messy. Dangerous. Forbidden. All the words I'd been whispering to myself for weeks suddenly shouted in my head. And yet I couldn't pull away. The hallway grew quieter as we lingered, suspended between risk and desire. She looked at me, eyes glistening with the weight of a decision she hadn't made yet. I could see it, the part of her that wanted to throw caution aside, and the part that feared the consequences too much. Then her phone rang, loud and urgent. She jumped, and the screen flashed a name I didn't recognize. Her hand shook as she silenced it. I saw the flicker of panic, of betrayal, even in just a glance. And in that instant, I realized that nothing between us would ever feel safe again. Yet, as her chest rose and fell, her gaze found mine again, raw and unguarded. The pull, the magnetism, the dangerous possibility, it was still there. I wanted to take her in my arms. She wanted me to. But now, more than ever, the stakes had been raised. And I knew we couldn't ignore what came next. The office was empty now, the hum of fluorescent lights filling the space with a low, constant thrum. We stood there, facing each other, a gulf of words unspoken stretching between us. Every instinct screamed to speak, to move, to bridge the impossible distance, but the fear lingered, sticky and heavy. I can't keep pretending this isn't happening, I said finally, voice low, shaking despite myself. I can't. I don't want to. Her eyes searched mine, wide and raw, a storm of longing and guilt and something fragile I'd never seen before. She pressed her palms to her face, then lowered them slowly, trembling. I thought I could control it. I thought I was protecting us both. I stepped closer, ignoring the knot of anxiety that twisted my stomach. Protecting us? Or protecting yourself? She flinched, and then laughed, a short, brittle sound, almost like breaking glass. Maybe both, she whispered. Her voice cracked, and I caught the tiny tremor in her hands as they hovered just above mine. I wanted to reach for her, but I hesitated, studying the small gestures that told me more than words ever could. The way she leaned slightly forward, the way her breath hitched, the way her lips parted like she wanted to confess, or beg, or surrender. I don't care about safe, I said, letting my hand brush hers, just barely. I care about you. All of you. The messy, the impossible, the everything. Her eyes glistened with something I couldn't name, fear maybe, but also relief. She exhaled, long and shaky, and closed the distance by the tiniest fraction, enough that our shoulders brushed. And if it all falls apart? She asked, voice small. If I'm wrong, if we take it as it comes, I said, letting my fingers graze hers. The touch was electric, a promise and a question all at once. I'm done waiting. I'm done being careful. With you, I don't want to be careful anymore. For a heartbeat, she just stared at me, lips slightly parted, eyes reflecting the turmoil inside her. Then she leaned closer, and I felt the pull, an irresistible gravity that made it impossible to think about consequences, impossible to step back. And then, she stopped. A flicker of doubt, of hesitation, of fear, held her in place. She tilted her head, searching my eyes as if asking permission, as if checking if I could survive the risk as much as she could. I nodded slightly, silently, desperate, patient. I can, I said. I'll risk it. You are worth it. Her hand brushed mine again, lingering this time, and the air between us seemed to crackle with a tension I could almost taste. The moment stretched, messy and raw, and I knew, whether we acted fully or not, it had changed everything. She let out a shaky breath, leaning forward just enough that I could feel the warmth of her presence, but not enough to cross the line we both feared to cross. The office door clicked somewhere down the hall, a reminder that the world outside existed, that the rules, the risks, the judgment were still waiting. Yet here, in this suspended second, nothing else mattered. Not her ex. Not gossip. Not fear. Only us. And maybe, just maybe, we would survive it. Or maybe the next step would ruin everything. The office was quiet again, but it didn't feel the same. That tension, that pull between us, hadn't vanished. It had settled into something warmer, something steady, like a candle flickering in a dark room. Victoria leaned against her desk, shoulders relaxed for the first time in hours, maybe days. I stayed close enough to feel her presence, but far enough to let the moment breathe. No words rushed out. We didn't need them. I never expected this, she murmured, voice low, carrying a trace of wonder. I thought I'd lost the chance to feel this way again. With anyone. I reached for her hand this time, letting our fingers entwine naturally. No hesitation, no fear, just that quiet, grounding connection that said everything I couldn't put into words. I didn't either, I admitted. And now, I can't imagine letting it go. Her lips curved in a soft, unguarded smile, the kind that held memories of laughter, regret, longing, all stitched together into something fragile and alive. For a long second, we just stood there, hand in hand, letting the silence stretch. Outside, the world continued on, unaware of the small miracle unfolding in a quiet office. The risks, the gossip, the what-ifs, all still existed. But for once, they didn't matter. Not here. Not now. You think people will talk? She asked, a teasing lift at the corner of her mouth. I shrugged, grinning despite myself. Let them. Us, it's worth it. Her eyes softened, glistening faintly as she squeezed my hand. I never thought I'd feel seen like this again, she said, voice catching. Like really seen. I swallowed hard, knowing that she was offering more than words. She was offering trust, surrender, possibility. And I took it, gently, reverently, as if handling something delicate enough to break with a wrong move. We didn't rush. We didn't need to. Every glance, every brush of fingers, every shared breath was a promise that we'd find our way forward, messy and human as it might be. The office door opened and closed somewhere down the hall, a reminder that life waited beyond these walls. But in this space, in this moment, we were allowed to exist as we were, imperfect, vulnerable, alive. "I guess this is our beginning," she said, letting a small laugh slip through. I nodded, feeling it in my chest, a warmth I hadn't expected to find so soon. "Yeah. Our beginning." We lingered there a moment longer, hands entwined, hearts full of unspoken words, knowing that the path ahead might be difficult, but certain in one thing: we'd face it together. And as we finally stepped toward the door, toward the world outside, a sense of quiet hope settled over me. Bittersweet, yes, because nothing was simple. But real, human, and ours.